because there's nothing to do, no reading material, nothing. But also use the time to do some exercise to make sure I stayed relatively healthy.
I mean, what do you think about our present situation? Where are we at? Are we at a better place?
Oh, far better than what we had. I mean, right now folks are complaining about the president leaving cars in the sun, or, you know, the president maybe being sleepy, or whatever the case may be. That is a far cry from the period when we were concerned about the president ordering execution, the president enjoying watching torture sessions. It's very different, light years from what we had. This is a significant This is a significant change, and of course challenges remain. There are still complaints about the perennial power problem, energy crisis, NAWEC, and unless that is solved, people will continue to complain about that. But that's nothing new. It's inherited by the government, but since they're in power, the onus is on them to solve it. And there are some also who complain about the presence of people from the old regime in this one, that it sends a bad image, that the optics are not that good, that the same folks you saw with Yahya Jammeh being seen with Barrow, and complaints of that nature. This regime is no longer, it's not like the previous one where fear reigned. The fact that we're able to complain openly, state media and the media in general, is an indication of the changes here. It's just, those are things of concern that the government has to be aware of and at least try to address, since the government is supposed to be responsive and responsible. But it's not a matter of fear, but just a concern expressed by some people.
You reminded that you're watching the book club with me, Ibrahim Ajata, and today we meet face to face with Dr. Amadou Yahya Jammeh, reviewing his book, Standing Up Against Injustice. That's his latest work, exploring the atrocious conditions and massive disregard for justice and human rights that define 2 decades of the Gambia, the most brutal dictatorship to hit Africa in the past 2 decades. And here we have Dr. Amadou Yahya Jammeh talking about his latest work. We'll go for a short break, but when we come back, Dr. Amadou Yahya Jammeh is going to read a chapter, a page from his book. Don't go away. We'll be back very soon. The forward-looking author, uncovering the ills of a brutal regime to mark a new democracy.
Gambian Spring, the Jammeh dictatorship never allowed the emergence of media outlets that could dent its monopoly in the dissemination of information. No private ownership of television stations was permitted. Radio stations, learning from the experiences of Citizen FM's Babukar Gay, the closure of Teranga FM, and the attack on Radio 1 FM's George Christensen, focused only on sports and soft subjects to avoid closure. Journalists who dared to criticize the regime risked arrest, torture, and even death at the hands of the state. Many media houses were arbitrarily shut down, while others were burnt down. In light of this repressive environment, those of us spearheading CCG contemplated 2 options: either to set up a clandestine mobile radio station in remote parts of the Gambia, or secure a broadcast license in Senegal so that Radio Free Gambia could operate beyond the reach of dictator Jammeh. The CCG leadership agreed to go with the latter option. In the meantime, we plan to buy airtime from radio stations in Kaolack, Senegal, to deliver a strong message of defiance to the Gambia government. RFG was to operate within the framework of Senegalese laws and to serve as a voice for the voiceless. It was decided the station would broadcast programs in English, French, and all of the Gambia's major languages: Wolof, Mandinka, Fula, Jola, and Sarahule. I was tasked to help establish our radio project. First, I conducted online research on FM transmission. An array of websites was visited and documents reviewed. I also held discussions with George Christensen, an expert in media affairs.
Dr. Amadou Skatret Jammeh there talking about standing up against injustice, and that is exactly what he is doing, continuing to do as he moves to extend the campaign towards bringing Jammeh and his associates back to justice. This is the book club with me, Ibrahima Jatta, moving to explore the author's world and inspiration. There we sit with Dr. Amadou Skatret Jammeh, exploring his new work and inspiration, standing up against injustice, a memoir that dips into a fascinating story of state atrocities and massive disregard for justice and human rights, a gem for the Gambia struggle towards building a solid democracy. Here's exactly where we say bye, but do continue to join us on our special new edition, exploring authors and writers who chronicled the 22-year regime of former President Jammeh.